Another edition of the Buddy Martin Show. I am he. Program brought to you tonight by Titan MRI and Imaging. 3 locations to serve you, soon to be 4. Thankful for all of our sponsors and friends. For you coming up tonight on the program, a special night with a special friend, talking about a special occasion. As we said earlier in our tease of the show, if you were stepping aside there for 50 years, how would you say goodbye? Well, my friend Tony Barnhart's going to be doing that. We got a special event coming up to honor Tony. We're going to talk about that. Many, many stories to tell. Books have been written, and one of the all-around really good people in our business. So glad for Tony, sad for us, but he won't get too far from the microphone. We'll be roping him every now and then. But coming up next, Tony Barnhart, when she gets back from her meeting tonight, we'll have Allie Peak Wilbur will join us. Always great to talk to Allie. She has good insight on her peek inside the Gators, and also Kevin Brockway, the Gainesville Sun. So it's a busy night. Lots of topics to talk about, but coming up right now is our friend Tony Barnhart. Stay tuned. He is next right here on the Buddy Martin Show.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Good evening. Once again, football season is sneaking up on us with little cat feet. My gosh, I couldn't believe it. I'd look at my calendar and I got a note from my friend up in the SID's office in Gainesville. I need your credential requests. Practice opens next week. What? So we'll be heading that way this weekend. We'll be at the opening presser on Monday. Tuesday it is actually, and then they get underway on the field the next day. Meanwhile, also there for another very special occasion, honored to be asked to be on the scene here with this young man, our good friend and colleague, Tony Barnhart, who is going to be honored at Steve Spurrier's Grand Grill with a all-star cast. And Tony, I can't believe you're stepping down like this. I can't believe your great career is not going to be over. You got one more trip around the sun with each of the schools in the SEC, and on Saturday night you'll be at Steve Spurrier's Grand Grill. Talk about that.
Well, we're looking at it. It's really the working title of our evening, buddy, is going to be Mr. CFB in the HBC.
Okay.
And we're going to be together at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and we got a list of about 25, and it's a nice mix of former players, media types like us, and a lot of friends and a lot of family. And we're going to honor my 50th in the profession and Coach Spurrier's latest birthday, and we're really looking forward to it. Maria, my wife, will be with me because it's going to be a special evening.
Mrs. College Football, who I've never had the pleasure of actually officially meeting. I've seen her flashing in the night here and there, but never had a chance to talk to her. Then I get to talk to her this weekend. That'll be awesome. It'll be a great night with a cast of people that you got coming. It'll be fun. One of the great things about you, Tony, is, well, there's several great things. And I'm going to mention a couple of these and my accolades I roll at you on Saturday night when I get the microphone. Is that number one, you always were a very fair person. And one of the things I think is a testimony to that is that you come from a long line of Bulldogs. came out of, worked actually in South Carolina for a guy named Smith Barrier, whose name I always loved. What a great name. And then you went to Atlanta and became famous. And I ran into you, and I'll tell that story on Saturday night because I was a friend of Van McKenzie's, who you worked with there.
Yep.
And I had a show in Denver, and I was trying to get a hold of someone to shed some light. Back in those days, there weren't that many shows. And I had someone call the office. They said, well, Tony's Van's not here, but the guy who covers college football for us is Tony Barnhart. We said, okay, well, we'll give him a shot. And of course we did. And that started a long relationship, and your career was just beginning to take off. We can't cover it all tonight, but we're certainly going to talk about the fact that you had a great run, and then you went into the big time, CBS. I was trying to think, how many years did you do that college football show on Saturdays?
Well, we had a show that we did. Wes Durham and I had a show that we did 4 days a week during that stretch. We did some shows on Sunday nights, and we ended up doing a lot of radio, buddy. A lot.
But I'm talking about your TV gig.
My TV gig, the TV gig I had was with CBS, the CBS Sports Network. You're thinking about CSS Talking Football.
Probably so.
Yes, and that was as much fun as I've ever had with Bob, the great Bob Neal, Mark Schleybaugh, Brady Ackerman was on that show, and we did it twice a week. We started doing it once a week on Sundays, but it got to be so popular, the sponsors ponied up for it twice a week, and we did it on Wednesdays and Sundays, and it was we just had so much fun on that show. We really did.
I got all mixed up on the networks, who went where. I spent 3 years at CBS NFL Today show, and I was thinking somehow or another you also did the CBS college football show. But
yes, yeah. I actually started. There's a Florida Gator tie to that, and since CBS hired me to be sort of a sideline reporter during the game. But you remember when our friend Ron Zook got fired?
Yeah,
I was able to wrangle an interview with him down in the weekend of the Georgia-Florida game. I was able to wrangle an interview with him. Got on CBS. Tim Brando, Spencer Tillman were on that show, pregame show, and then not long after that, they started inviting me to come to New York about every other Saturday. That was
that's what
it was. A lot of fun. But when you walk into the same room and you see a picture of Walter Cronkite and Edward R. Murrah, you know you have reached the big time.
I loved my time at CBS, and the first thing I did was I went into the gift shop and bought as many hats and T-shirts as I could with CBS Sports on, and I loved going down there to the first floor where Cronkite's office was, and later on others. And in fact, we used to go to Leslie Stahl's office, Bradshaw and I did, to use on Sundays and Saturdays we were working. Anyway, lots and lots of things there. Tony, you've always been way above the crowd. You've always been a fair person, and I think it's a testimony to you that most people, if you ask them where you went to college, probably wouldn't know because you didn't go on as a bulldog like yours today. You went on as a journalist. There's a concept, a journalist.
Well, I was doing a book signing, one of my books, and this was a Georgia-themed book. And the guy brought him up. I think he had 5 copies, and I signed them. He said, I had no idea you went to Georgia. I said, good. That's the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, that's right. Now it's blatant. Everybody's a cheerleader. It's okay. And it's going to be a fun night. And the reason I bring it up, there's so many things that now need perspective because everything has changed. I mean, what we did is, we had something called a typewriter. Unbelievable. And I'm going to break a little news on Saturday night about how that should be represented in Spurs Grind Grill, because that was the tool. That's what we use.
Yep.
You not so much as me, because when you got there, you're doing 2 TIs and Telerams and all that. But I had a rank old console typewriter, then a portable, and that's what we typed on. And I had it out. I still have my original desk typewriter. Had it out in my home in Ocala one day, and my 2 grandchildren came over and said, "What is that, Poppy?" I let them type on it, and because it was working, it's hard to find a working typewriter. And it was like a foreign object to them. God bless them. So I want to make sure people know what our tools were. We didn't have all this easy just to push a button and you're done. We had things called carbons. We get through writing, and we take them out and look them over and check them. And I remember one time at a press box years ago, I mentioned carbons, and that person, carbons, what's a carbon? Well, there you go. I'm amazing myself. But nonetheless, as I sat and thinking about tonight's show, the things that were era appropriate, and before I get into too much of the party Saturday night, because I want to save some of that for the deal, I thought about eras and things and how people just wouldn't know, because you can't know if you weren't there. And I know you have some history at the Masters.
Yep.
And I was reading something today. Jack Nicklaus, an interview actually he did, and he was asked who would be on his Mount Rushmore for golf. Now you know that Mount Rushmore thing is way overdone, but too many people. But they asked Nicklaus. You thought he'd probably back off with that one, but you know what he said? And he's a very actually, as you know, his ego's in check.
Yeah,
he's not a guy who's flashy, not brash, anything at all like they are today. And they asked him, they said, well, who'll be on your Mount Rushmore? To the great Jack Nicklaus, who still has the most majors. And he said, Bobby Jones. That wouldn't be a surprise. Tell people who Bobby was. The founder of the Masters. And right?
Grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and went to Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech.
Built East Lake Golf Club. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he, of course, he won the Grand Slam before there was four. The four majors were different then; they were amateur mostly. And then he said he'd like to add Ben Hogan. All the old timers like Dan Jenkins always raved about Ben Hogan. And while we don't talk much golf here, it's said that Ben Hogan, quote, invented practice. Nobody practiced like that until Hogan came along. And then he said, Tiger Woods, and naturally put him in there. And then he said, who do you think the fourth one was?
Lee Trevino.
He said, I'd like to join them. He actually put himself in there.
Great answer.
Great answer, isn't it? Great answer. So anyway.
I had a chance to speak to Jack Nicklaus many years ago. He was being honored in Atlanta by a group called the Athletes for a Better World. And they tried to get me to come and write something about it. And I said I would. They said, oh, by the way, we're honoring Jack Nicklaus. Would you like some time with Jack Nicklaus? I said, yeah, you better believe I would. And what I will never forget one of his grandsons was playing football at Florida State at the time. I think that's
right.
I know it's Florida State.
Tight end.
Yeah, tight end. Well, we talked for about 30 minutes. I wanted to talk about golf. He wanted to talk about college football because he grew up in Columbus, Ohio. Loves college football.
And played baseball at Ohio State.
He said when Jimbo Fisher was the coach at Florida State, so we asked Jimbo why he didn't use a tight end more. And so what a great experience. I saw Jack Nicklaus play for the first time in person at the 1968 Masters. I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
I grew up exactly 1 hour from my house to the front gate of Augusta National. And we got to go when I was young, and it was I love golf, and I love the Masters.
Too bad you didn't get to see him in '86. That was a magical year. That was something else.
Well, buddy, that was one of the 2 years that I was inside on the desk. They promoted me to assistant. Van McKenzie promoted me to assistant sports editor. I worked in '84, '85 after I got there. He brought me into his office one day, said, I need an assistant sports editor, another assistant sports editor. Would you consider it? Now I'm 30 years old. You think I'm going to tell Van McKenzie no? There's no way. So I did that for 2 years. And then I was putting out the section on Sunday when Nicklaus made his charge to win the Masters.
Nice, so, it was wonderful.
The phone would not stop ringing.
It was a magical
news
day.
Had gotten out.
Magical day. I was thinking about Van today. As you know, I was blessed to work with Van at 4 newspapers.
Right.
I started him out in Ocala. He worked for me at 19.
Brilliant man.
Yeah, and then he came to Cocoa and worked for me at Today. And then I went to the St. Pete Times. He called me and wanted a job there, which I hired him, and all he did was take us to being named the best daily sports section in America 2 years in a row. And then I went to New York, the Daily News, and I needed somebody. I thought, I'm not going to hire Van McKenzie. I'm going to look for the best man. I looked for 6 months, couldn't find any of us. I finally said, oh, heck, I'm going to call Van. And I called him. He came up. He was reluctant. He was really happy at St. Pete. But he got there. I think he finally, I took him to the top of the World Trade Center. He got to meet the mayor and all that kind of stuff. And just wined him and dined him. And although he was leaning but not, told him, I said, you can do things here that you could never have done for your family. And somehow got him away. And he came to work for me. He stayed there about a year and a half, 2 years. And then he went to Atlanta. I know we're boring people to death about this. I just want to get that in because there are not many people I can talk to who know what I'm talking about on that. Let's talk a little football, Tony.
Absolutely.
All right. And this is something I find interesting is that this SEC, and you just got back from all there and hearing all that stuff as I did, this SEC is getting kind of hard to figure out. And most people will say, well, there are no great teams in the SEC anymore. Well, we'll see about that. There are more really, really good teams. And they took off the usual suspects, Georgia being one, Texas, LSU, Florida, etc. And you can argue about which is better, which is a show of strength. I don't know about that. But certainly the SEC is in a great position at this point in time. Now, Florida is a team that's flying partly under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know a lot about Florida. And I hear things all the time, and I don't know everything about Florida. I'm still learning myself. But what I'm learning is that there's some players there. They are well under the radar. Tony, tell me a position group, and I'll tell you what I think about. Is there one position group you think you're concerned about?
I don't know that one I'm concerned about. Obviously, everybody knows about DJ Gasway and what he brings to the table. The question I think that I would have, does he have enough weapons around him to get done what he needs to get done? Because one of the things you learn is you can have a good quarterback, but if you don't give him enough weapons, then he cannot be nearly as effective.
Well, let me let you know a little secret. He's got some amazing weapons. He's got the wide receiver room that's going to blow your mind. There's some players on that wide receiver room that people who are on the same side, and what my eyes have seen so far, this is going to be some unbelievable young receivers. I mean, unbelievable. And of course, we know all about Jaden Ball. We know about DJ Lagway, etc. But you hear people ask, well, they got this, they have that, and they may have the best offensive line in the SEC. Maybe we'll see about that. But then they say, they don't have any linebackers. Let me tell you what. Guess what? They got linebackers. That's one of the best kept secrets. And there's several features this week about a couple of them. Saying that, that they're weak at linebackers and a question. Well, Shamar James left, yeah. But they got a guy named Jaden Robinson and Pup Howard. And they got Miles Graham, the son of Ernest Graham, and a terrific player named Aaron Childs. They got two guys named Miles Johnson and Ty Jackson. These are stout guys. They are really, really excellent linebackers. They're going to be, in fact, it will be one of their strongest positions, linebacker. So, again, there's things around, and I'm sure this is of many other teams. Like, I don't know. I'm sure there are things about Georgia. I hear Georgia doesn't have any great defensive players. Well, they don't have what they had over there, maybe. Maybe they don't have four number one draft choices or whatever.
Right.
But they do, I'm sure, have some terrific players because Kirby's been stockpiled. And so, anyway, let's talk about the other little known things. And it's hard to know, Cody, because we don't get to see these guys,
Right.
We don't get to see them, and we
Used to
don't
be
know.
we could go to practice. Imagine that.
Oh, there's a concept. That'll never happen. Then we get to go out for a 15, 12, maybe 8 minutes. And that's not what that's going to be. But we'll see. But anyway, there's just on couple ideas there that you got to know. These guys they're really good, and especially these young linebackers. What can you tell me? And I know you, like me, we don't get to go sit and talk and have coffee with the coaches and watch them practice and all that stuff. Well, so what we hear is through gossip and a little bit of reporting and maybe having what do you hear? What little do you hear, A, about the Gators and B, about the Bulldogs?
The Gators, you got the sum total of my knowledge about the Gators. If Flagway, well, two things jump out. Obviously, Flagway, every sentence begins with if Flagway stays healthy, and then you fill out the rest of that sentence.
Right.
And the other thing, I can't tell you how impressed I was with the way the Gators finished last season. Because you looked at that schedule going in and says, man, if they're struggling in the back half of that schedule, it's going to get ugly. Well, they played really well. And that speaks a lot to Billy Napier and his staff and the way the players. So I was very impressed by that. As far as the Georgia Bulldogs go, I mean, everybody wants to talk about Gunnar Stockton, the quarterback, and whether or not he's an SEC caliber player and all that kind of stuff. First of all, I think Georgia's got a lot more important things to worry about than the quarterback. Quarterback's going to be fine. Now, is this kid as talented as some other quarterbacks? Conrad Beck, of course, Carson Beck, who is down at Miami. I see that talented, not by pure arm strength, but the guy knows how to play ball. And you know this, buddy, from Ben. There's certain guys. If that locker room believes in that quarterback, they're not going to let him fail. They're going to take care of it. And I think Georgia will be able to do. Georgia's biggest issue is not quarterback. Georgia's biggest issue is the fact that they finished 15th in the SEC rushing the football. Think about that now, buddy. Georgia Bulldogs built around a strong running game and great defense could not run the ball last year. And part of it was, frankly, some of the guys didn't pan out. ETN, was a great player, was supposed to be a great player. He was okay. But they've dealt with the running back situation. They're concerned. They got 4 new starters on the offensive line. That's a big concern. They had some they led the nation. How'd you like this distinction, buddy? Georgia led the nation in drop passes. And
drops. They're going to say anybody catch the ball. Yeah.
36. Okay.
Wow.
Now they went out and hit the portal real hard and got a couple of big time wide receivers. So I'm assuming that if you get more talent at the wide receiver position, the drops, you won't have as many drops. But we'll say the thing that Georgia's got going for them, I think the quarterback will be fine. I think the receivers will be fine. They got to run the ball when they need to protect the lead in the fourth quarter. And the defense, Kirby Smart told us that this is the youngest team he's had. 54% of the players on this team are first-year or second-year players. What Coach Smart didn't say was that they're very, very talented. So with Georgia, all those games that Georgia played on the road last year, Texas, Ole Miss,
they got home games,
and they've all got home games. So I think there was a reason that Texas and Georgia were 1-2 when the media voted. From a talent standpoint, I think that's where it is. But there's several teams that could jump up and bite you, so to speak.
What I'm hearing about that vote is that came late, like it always does, and there were very few people who voted. That's what I'm hearing. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. I think there's so little known about these teams and these players. You just mentioned a couple. They had the greatest tight end in the history of college football a couple of years ago, in my opinion. And that you lose players like that, you just don't replace them. And then a quarterback who couldn't let anybody catch the ball. And you mentioned that. And they don't have those dominant number 1 draft picks in the front 7 on defense that they've had before. So I get the feeling that Georgia is going to be a little down. When I say down for Georgia, that means they won't win 12 games, I got them in 10 or 11, somewhere in there. I think they'll drop a couple along the way, in my opinion. I guess we get to find out about that soon.
So circle September 27th for the Georgia Bulldogs,
right?
And they're also playing Tennessee in that stretch, so it's not going to be Tennessee at Tennessee.
Yeah. I'm not a Tennessee believer at this point in time, but we'll see. It's hard at this point. Time of the year, it's just all a gut feeling.
Mhm.
It's all a gut feeling. I don't know. I have a hard time knocking Texas out of there, and they're going to. I think they got the best quarterback in the conference once he gets a few games under his belt.
Right.
And I mean, he's fantastic. There's other good players in the league, a lot of good players. TJ Lagway being one of them.
Yep.
And in the end, you got to have the coach, the quarterback, and a decent defense to go with that. And I don't know if there's fewer of those teams. Like, I'm not totally locked in on LSU. You should be. He went to Portland, got a bunch of players, got the most experienced quarterback in the league, and Nussmeier. Jimbo he likes to brag on his Brian Kelly on his team and what he's done, but he hasn't been doing it, Tony. He's lost a bunch of games, including the Florida last year.
We won a lot of close games, and we get to find out about LSU real early.
Yes, we do.
They're going to the other Death Valley at Clemson, and Clemson has people a lot smarter than me have told me that Clemson's got the best defensive line in all of college football. And Cade Klubnik, they've got a quarterback.
Best quarterback too. Yeah, I don't know.
They love Cade Klubnik.
Do you think he's that good, Tony?
I do think he's that good. Now, this is his 5th year in the program, and I think he'll have a big. I'm going to be very, very surprised if Clemson doesn't win the ACC.
Well, what is that though?
What is winning the ACC?
Yeah.
Well, you get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I understand, but I mean the idea that they could be at the same level. Anyway, I guess you can't be too cocky about it. You got to prove. And by the way, they got to prove they got to prove that they can beat the Big Ten. How did this all happen, Tony? We weren't looking, and there was the Big Ten popped up.
Big Ten's popped up, won 2 national championships in a row, and the coaches. Coaches in Destin, the SEC coaches in Destin were a little on edge every time you brought that up. And Big Ten's feeling pretty good about themselves right now. We'll see. I'm told that Penn State's the best team in the Big Ten.
I just can't buy that. I don't know. I mean, I just got to say Ohio State. It's got to be in Michigan, not so much. Maybe we'll see. What do we know? We're for a long distance. Next year in Destin, you come here. I'm going to take you to my restaurants there. Coming back here. Let me just pause for a second and bring in our buddy Kevin Brockway and tell you about Titan MRI and Imaging, our sponsor, who does great things here in our community. If you don't know about Titan MRI and Imaging, you should. Let's get Kevin and say good evening to him. And there's Tony. I'll tell you the rest about Titan MRI. They are operating now in locations in North Florida where you can reach them, and they're about to expand again. They have 3 locations, 2 in Gainesville with Park Avenue, and now the Millennium Center, and 1 in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta. They offer the same great customer service. They accept insurance, or you can go to the convenient self-pay program, and they offer MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, and ultrasounds, soon to be coming to Marion County, my home. And I'm glad of that because they have these cages that they have oversized. When you go and get an MRI, you don't like to get in those small little tubes. Well, they got bigger ones. They have easier scheduling, lots of options, including evens. Check them out. Titan MRI Imaging. And good evening to Kevin Brockway. What's up, Kevin? Say hi to
Tony. It's an honor to be on with the great Tony Barnhart. I saw Tony last week in Atlanta. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. I think I saw your Facebook post where you were talking about 1971, back when you were in college. Not to age you too much there, but lots of good stuff and unbelievable breadth of knowledge. I'm on with 2 legends here. It's going to be hard to carry my weight,
Well, 1 at least.
Thank you, Kevin. It's nice.
I will say this, and I was going to save it to we're having a little get together for Tony on Saturday night, and is that I love the press box. My favorite title of any book ever done was Fred Russell's book, and he brought me a copy when I was a young puppy. Bury me on an old press box. It's great. And all the great things in the culture of the press box of his era through Grambling Rice which we were able to catch the end of, Tony. And being in a press box on a Saturday was an honor.
It was.
It was like being in the Sistine Chapel. You're sitting there watching these guys walk by. It's like being at Cooperstown and watching them come out of the cornfield, you know. And Tony, any press box Tony was in was always better.
Well, I appreciate that. It was the same thing for me growing up. I shared a mini press box with the great Furman Bishop, and who was one of my mentors growing up, and Jesse Outler, Dan Foster of Greenville, and the Greenville News. But yeah, being in the press box on Saturday was a really, really big deal.
Yeah, and
Kevin,
Tony, I'll tell you a story.
Go ahead.
Introduced me to the USPWA, which is a great organization, and I later became a chair on it. So I'm always grateful and appreciative for that, for him kind of recruiting me and getting me to join that. And it's really, that and the Football Writers Association are two really good, as you both know, resources in terms of keeping everyone together. And that guidebook is wealth of knowledge for sources. So really good stuff, Tony, and I always appreciated that too when you did that back in 2006, which doesn't seem too long ago, right? But
wow,
yet it is.
Well, but one thing you learn, all of us, particularly all of us guys who grew up in the newspaper business, we had to take care of each other, and so through organizations like the FWAA, we got better access, locker rooms, things of that nature. But I'm afraid that era is now past.
I remember Jack, the late great Jack Harrison, who was in Football Writers America and was a big believer in it, because it's the first time there was any formal voice to where you could go to the coaches to say, let us tell you what we're up against. We're having problems. Can you help us? And they tended to respond better to that organization. And Jack took them at their word. They said, okay, here's the new rules. You can't come into a press box until I think the time limit was 10 minutes. You have to wait outside for 10 minutes before you come in so you can cool down. So we be waiting on the press box sometime, and at 10 after, nobody came to the door. And Jack Hurst was up there beating on the door, saying, hey, we got to get in here now. I mean, he took that, he tried to enforce it, and he made a difference. So others have gone before us and done things that helped us in our work. And Kevin, you got to see it on the other end. Coming in, I don't know when your first real press box experience was and what that was like for you, and seeing some of your idols in the press box.
Oh, yeah, no question. And I remember that first Final Four meeting Mike Lupica, who I'd grown up in New York, was, one of my idols, and he was very gracious. And I go back to spring training, Bob Ryan, meeting him, when I was covering the Red Sox, when I was working in Naples, Florida. A lot of big names, and he's sitting with him. I think it was after Joe Kerrigan was fired during spring training when they had the ownership meeting, and sitting with him and talking basketball for 2 hours at an ale house in Fort Myers, Florida, and feeling like I was king of the world. Talking to this guy who's been on TV. It's just it just really makes your day when someone of that stature can talk to someone younger, and you try to pass it along as you go.
It's a great honor when someone tells you that. And by the way, Mike Lupica, I hired him as the columnist. He was already there. I promoted him. Van and I did nationwide search. We decided to give the column, because Dick Young was getting older, to Mike Lupica. And the word gracious is not one you heard a lot used around Mike. Just say that, okay? I love Mike, but gracious is not an adjective often associated with Mike, okay?
Yeah.
If you get my drift. So, so let's talk a little football. We just were talking about the unknowns, things about the teams that we don't know, obviously. Excuse me. And I talked about the linebackers from Florida. If you start looking at position groups, you have no idea the talent level of these rooms. You do, Kevin, because you see the team. But when Tony said, well, I don't know if Florida's going to have any weapons, they got a bunch of weapons, especially in the running back rooms. As you know, how I feel about Jaden Ball. I mean, I was one of his first champions. You know about Tony, about DJ Lagway and what have you, and Jacoby and all that bunch. But we didn't even bring up the tight ends yet, which is a whole nother deal. And now the subject at hand the other day was, but do they have any linebackers? Kevin, did they have any linebackers?
I think Pup Howard last
Yeah,
year showed a
really.
lot until
Oh,
he got
yeah.
hurt.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he was a guy that I thought was on the come. And I think Jaden Robinson, the kid from Lake City,
Yeah.
too, flashed and showed some good things. You know, I'll be curious about Miles Graham and the kind of
Mhm.
step that he makes. You know, certainly he was a guy that last year as a true freshman kind of came on a little late. And Aaron Childs is another guy who, you know, has a lot of ability, has a lot of talent. As you know, he's a Maryland kid. He went to the same high school as, you remember back in the day, Janoris Jenkins, who was a linebacker there. And I did a
Mhm.
story last year about how he's kind of mentoring him. And
Mhm.
Childs is really more of an athletic guy that can, you know, cover guys out of the backfield a little bit. I think he could be deployed there very successfully. So I think they're good. I mean, are they all SEC level? Maybe not. Maybe Pup this year can kind of take a turn. But I think they're solid. And, you know, both Childs and Miles Graham were former Under Armour All-Americans. So, you know, I remember seeing him in that game. So they obviously have ability and they have room to grow, but they're still a little young. They're second-year sophomores. So we'll see how they continue to progress.
Well, the things I'm hearing about, and Graham Hall just had a piece about him. And Miles Graham is really becoming into his own. A quote, a born leader is being used a lot around his name. And it's he is a leader, and he was a freshman last year. They're expecting big things out of him. They think he might be an All-American linebacker one day. And so again, Tony, we don't have a lot to go on, but we have to take words of people that we trust. Guys like Kevin. Kevin, next week we'll get to see him for about 8 minutes.
Exactly. You know, and let's not forget Ty Jackson, too, the incoming freshman.
Ty
Who
Jackson
had 12 tackles in the spring game, too, and who Billy Napier loved his tape coming out of high school. And I talked to John Santucci, our recruiting writer, and he said the reason why, you know, he kind of had a star fall off because he was a little injured and a little banged up. But when he's healthy, which he, you know, certainly has came around late in a senior year of high school, is a guy that, you know, I think has a lot of ability as well. So I think that he's another, you know, potential depth piece, even as a true freshman, could contribute as well. So I think they have some options there. And don't forget, they kind of play, obviously, 4-2-5. So you really only need two spots because they play that star position to fill in there. And there's a lot of certainly edge rushers they have, too, coming off the edge that are kind of hybrid linebacker defensive end types. And I think we're all waiting on LJ McCray, right? It's kind of like I call these guys great pumpkins, you know, like when are they going to develop? And sometimes with those guys, they take time, but you know, sophomore year, top 10 national recruit, maybe they'll come for him a little bit.
Tony, I know we've kept you a long time. I apologize. So go ahead and make a comment.
No, I'm just going to say, guys, this is the thing. The thing about it is, in the preseason, we don't know. We don't know because we're not going to practice. We're not watching practice like we used to. And that's what's so great about when the games start. When the games start, you know, you can watch a guy play and you say, oh, they told me that was a strength. That's not a strength. That's a weakness. So this is better than I thought. So that's the great thing about the games finally getting here.
Yeah. And it's not like we watch the tackling in those little 8-minute periods either.
Yeah.
We can see DJ Lagway throw the ball around a little bit, and there's going to be a lot of curiosity there, obviously, with the off seasons he's had. But yeah, we're not going to see any contact. There is rumblings that there might be one open thing, maybe at the Swamp, but we'll see if that comes to fruition.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired of the standard answers of like, well, it depends on his health. It depends on the health of every quarterback.
Of course.
Yes, he had some issues, and yes, there is concern. But the medical people I've talked to saying, okay, but they're getting the best treatment out there. And the people I've seen who've seen work out and what I've seen of him, again, he may have an issue, but you don't see it. And remember, and I think you'll agree with this, Kevin, and Tony, this is a misconception. It's not a team about just the quarterback. DJ Lagway has got some players. You talk about running backs, Kevin, I'm telling you, they got them and their offensive line with 4 starters back. Wide receiver room, I have no concern about. Special teams might be pretty good as well. So I know I sound like I'm getting all pumped up on SEC media days, but that's true. I believe this will be true. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, you know, and I pointed this out in a show earlier today too, is the good thing is the offensive line and how strong it projects to be, and the fact that you have an All-American in Jake Slaughter, who's one of the best pass protecting centers in college football. Austin Barber, who, you know, really had a nice bounce back season last season at left tackle. I think he's going to be pretty well protected this year, which is going to help. And we'll see about the dual threat ability too. And I think what he showed in the second half of last season was an ability to move around in the pocket too, which as a freshman quarterback is invaluable. Not necessarily take off downfield, but extend plays. I think we saw that a little bit in the LSU game. We saw that in the Ole Miss game. And I think that's something that's going to serve him well too. Not necessarily always looking to take off, but looking to extend plays because, as we mentioned, a lot of good targets that he has the potential to throw to this season. And 12 completions for 40 or more yards, you can throw the ball downfield.
She got a text from Allie Peak Wilbur. She's stuck in a meeting, so that's what that was about. I want to get to a guy who I think is someone I'm really fascinated by, and someone I think is from my hometown. A lot of people are really excited about seeing play, who represents everything the right way, who very quietly has grown to the star, and maybe as good an offensive player as there is, but he plays in the line. Pro Football Focus just named Jake Slaughter first team All-American in 2024 and has been named the SEC's top offensive player. I just say I'm a top offensive player. Jake Slaughter from Ocala, who went to Trinity, played for John Brantley, who now coaches at Forest. And I think he committed someplace else first, and then finally came to Florida. Kevin, what a find here. This kid is a remarkable leader. He's a brilliant student. He's already making all kind of records academically. He's become really the anchor of the offensive line. And I think he Tony, put him down for your Remington Award winner. Or even your outlet, if you remember what those are.
Well, I will say this about Jake too, because I talked to John Brantley, the third, who's coaching at Forest now, and he coached him at Trinity Catholic. By the way, FSU was the school that he was originally committed to.
Okay,
and then he ended up going to Florida. But just talked a lot about raved about his work ethic and his maturity back then. From a little town called Spar, Florida, right where North Marion is.
We claim him as Ocala, though.
I'm efforting that story, and kind of grew up life in the woods.
Did his dad play college football? Did his dad play for college football? He did, didn't he?
I don't think his dad played college football, but he talked a lot about just the yard and the acreage, and just the fact that he kind of lived this kind of idyllic small town life. Close town, close knit, where people know each other, and always wanted to play football from a young age. Dad kind of held him back a little bit, but by the time he was 8-9 years old, felt like he was ready. And he's pretty much worked for everything he's gotten to get to this point. Remember, he backed up Kingsley Gawkin a couple of years ago, and then Kingsley got hurt, and since then is really once he's taken that starting center job, he's really taken it and run with it and developed and improved to one of the best centers in the country.
Kind of reminds me of Tony Barnhart in Greene County. in the book he wrote about.
I played 4 positions and none of them very well. So
he had 19 players on his roster, I believe, there in that book as I read.
People write books about that kind of stuff. They really do.
Yeah. And it all started changed for the Brown versus Board of Education. And suddenly it was integrated, which is a whole new subject. And Tony writes about it beautifully in his book. I've got a copy of it someplace. The 19 and Green. I always wanted to sing the song to you. It's not easy being green.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah. And anyway, so talk about that book and what you wrote there, Tony.
Well, in the fall of 1970, you mentioned the two that we had. People don't believe this now when you tell them that there was a all white school and an all black school. And then the courts, you mentioned the courts, and by the fall of 1970, the courts in the state of Georgia said, this is going to happen. You're going to merge. And so we merged 2 fairly large high schools. They called for everybody who wanted to play football to come out. And when we were done with spring practice, we had 19 players, 12 white, 7 black. and that was our team. And nobody knew how it was going to pan out. Nobody knew how stressful it was going to be. There were people who didn't like the idea of black kids and white kids playing football together, and how much tension would there be there. But as it worked out, we lost our first 2 games, then won 7 out of our next 8, and made the playoffs. And today, 50 years later, some of the guys on that team were my best friends. Our quarterback, who came from the black high school, Charles Turner, remains one of my closest friends. We had a book signing at Greene County High School back 2 Decembers ago and had a wonderful turnout. And yeah, we set up a long table with all the guys that were there, and every guy got to sign his picture in the book. So I've gotten more, and I learned a lot. I learned about race relations, stuff that I did not know and should know. And it was a tremendous learning experience for me.
We had it happen in Ocala. I'm a little older than you are, obviously, quite a bit older. Our 2 biggest schools, one black, one white, Howard and Ocala High, after I left here, about that same time, merged. And it was powder keg. Could have gone either way. And the late Mac Dunwoody, the superintendent, he supported it and got threats of death and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually changed the names of both schools, which in a way I hate, but they changed it to Forest and changed it to Vanguard as the 2 schools. And they took the colors and merged them. And they took the yellow from Vanguard and put it in with the green and white of Ocala. And it was a very delicate time, and it could have gone either way, as you said, and it didn't. So there's many great stories there, and I recommend you check out Tony's book. If you,
I would think the other great story of this, besides the racial component, which is fascinating, is 19 players, right? So I mean, how many played 2 ways? Did you play 2 ways, Tony? Did you have to play a bunch of concrete Charlies on that team? I'm guessing.
I played both ways the entire game, and it was something. And you know, it was one of those situations where they not a lot of guys wanted to come out for football. Let's call it what it is. There were kids that didn't want to play with black kids, and there were black kids that didn't want to play with white kids. But we, as our coach said, we had to be the best conditioned team in the state of Georgia, and we were. Well, if we weren't, we were very, very close. But it just turned out to be an incredible learning experience, and the fact that we still stay in touch. We have tried to get together every year at homecoming at Greene County High School, and that's coming up in October.
Yeah, like I said, things have changed and change every day. I know that there are many great athletes, not saying not great black athletes that came out of Howard Academy that people didn't know about. It was also terrific academically. And black kids came from other towns and moved to Ocala just to go to that school. And you look at the annals, and years later I got to know some of the players and parents over there, of players who came through there from the black school Howard, played in the NFL or Pro Bowl players. I mean, they would never gotten discovered. You know, they never had a chance. So there's a lot of things that happen. And by the way, it wasn't just the white schools who got changed. The black schools' history got changed too. And they weren't all real happy about that. So just a dark time for us. All right, speaking of change, things are changing in television, politics, whatever. Did you guys hear the latest about the Rich Eisen show? I know you don't care about TV that much. Rich Eisen, he's now going to ESPN. He'll be the afternoon featured guy, noon to 3, beginning September the 2nd. And looks like the ESPN's making a purchase or something of that network. So Rich Eisen, I always thought Rich Eisen was quite good, and he'll have a bigger audience now. You guys like Rich Eisen?
I like him. I like it in his main show that he had. He would bring on Kevin Costner and other actors and other. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, he'll do well.
Yeah, and Rich was kind of schooled in the old ESPN, right? The golden age in the 90s and the 2000s, and I think him coming back is a nice piece there because he's a good interviewer. He's intelligent. He's perceptive. And obviously all those years working from the NFL network, he'll bring a lot of NFL contacts with him too, which I think will be, fairly valuable in terms of, and ESPN is heavily involved in the NFL too. So I think it's a win-win. I've always been a big Dan Patrick guy. I like him a
I was
lot.
going to ask you about Dan
Um,
Patrick. I listen to his
you know,
show now online sometimes.
he's a lot of fun to listen to, and he's obviously old school ESPN that I grew up with as well. But yeah, Rich, that's a nice, Scott Van Pelt I think is the best thing they have going right now as well. But it's a good network, and it'll be interesting to see too how I think they acquitted themselves really well with the SEC last year with the triple headers, and I think that's gonna continue to play well in the coming years in terms of the SEC coverage.
I guess the Boomer is going to be back too, doing some football, another channel, whatever. So, yeah. All right. So that was the golden era of ESPN. We're not going to have Allie tonight. We've got about 8 minutes to go. We'll finish up here, guys. Let's switch topics just for a second, because at the same place where Tony's going to be honored on Saturday night at Spurrier's. By the way, can I just say what a gift Spurrier's Gridiron Grill is to the University of Florida. I mean, my gosh, right there. I mean, it couldn't be better. I'm told they've had some amazing meetings, dinner meetings. They had the top 40 recruits in. They had dinner there. Just happened Steve Spurrier was in town.
Just
So
happened.
they had an amazing tool they can use legally right there. And by the way, the food's very good. Tony, you've not been there.
This is my maiden voyage. Looking forward to it. What
you're going to see, you're going to be blown away by, it's just a museum. Kevin, I know you've been out there.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
there's all kinds of, trophies, Heisman's, rings, beautiful glass cases. It is really, really nice. And I'm going to tell you a little secret I'm lobbying to do, and I hope I can do it. Is to put, I'm going to put a typewriter in there. And remember the guys back who covered Spurrier, we used. Tony, you came on the end of that. That's the guy.
Next time, when I see you, I got a great typewriter story for you.
Okay, let's go. We'll definitely talk about it Saturday night. So having said that, it's become kind of like our own little Hall of Fame now. And on Thursday night, Todd Golden is going to go be honored, and he gets his portrait by James Bates. Now, have you seen James Bates' work? It's unusual. I would say Picasso. This is it's a little different. Okay.
Yeah.
How could it not be unusual if it's Bates?
That's right. It's good. Yeah. It's just distinctly different. So he has done the official Todd Golden portrait for the Champions Room, and now they'll have. Well, I think it's 19 or 20. They got him. Here's a press release. It says all the portraits are painted by James Bates. Be unveiled at a fundraiser on Thursday night. Florida Victorious, you can go. It's open to the public 6 to 8. It's Celebration Point. They expect Coach Golden, Steve Spurrier, James Bates, and others to be there. You can buy tickets to the public, and the media is invited to attend. So how about that? The guy's only been here a year or so, and he gets to be in the Hall of Champions. Pretty cool, huh?
3 years, yes. It took him 3 years to win a national championship, which is amazing, to think about it, because, Billy got to a national title game in year 4, but then it took him until year 9 or year 10, to get his first one. So that just tells you, the work that Todd and his staff did is just through the roof in terms of Billy inherited probably even a little bit of a tougher situation than Todd did, back in 1996, but still, an amazing job by Todd and his staff. I'm going to be there. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss Tony on Saturday because I'm going down south to celebrate my mom and my brother's birthday. But it should be a good time. And Batesy, he does his artwork is definitely I don't know how to describe it. Definitely a little abstract. Definitely a little Salvador Dali in there.
That's very much true.
He has his little,
right. That's a good comparison.
Works.
Yeah. So you're not going to be there, so I'm not going to drink a toast to you on Saturday night for your new engagement. So the heck with you. You're not going to be a part of our deal.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't realize it. Had I known, I would have.
There you go. I know.
Changed my plans a little bit, but I appreciate that.
Let me let Tony get out of here, and you and I'll say goodnight, Kevin, with a little basketball. No, Tony, thank you. I'll see you there on Thursday on Saturday night. Looking forward to be a great time to honor one of America's great sport writers, as Bill Peterson used to call him, sport writer, Tony Barnhart. Thank you, Tony.
All right, guys. Take care.
Appreciate
Take care.
it.
Tony, get the mac and cheese at Spurs, too. It's pretty good.
I'll get the steak.
Good
Steaks
tip. I like that.
Yeah, that's good. It's all good. All right. Thank you very much, Tony Barnhart. All right, Kevin, we got about a minute, and I got to do a commercial. But I want to talk a little about the progress of the basketball team. I like the way that roster is shaping up.
Yeah, no question. And, they're still going through summer workouts. They've got about a week left. But I think that, the guard chemistry is going to be interesting. If we get a chance to talk to Todd tomorrow to see how that's coming along with Xavier Lee and Boogie Flynn and A.J. Brown and Isaiah Brown and just kind of that new look backcourt. I'm very curious to see or to hear how that's coming along. But you know what you've got in the front court with Condon, with Chinyelu, and with Tommy Houck, too, who, we've said before, they're going to experiment at the wing a little bit. And I think he could really emerge into a fun point forward type to watch that can really create things just because of it. His skill level is so high for his size. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Challenging schedule, as we know. Much like football, Todd really ramped up that non-conference schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And the SEC will be interesting. I know that, I've been doing my blue ribbon stuff and, I took the Bruce Pearl and Auburn. They're kind of rebuilding a little bit. They got the guy from UCF, Keyshawn Hall, who they're high on, but, and Tahad Pettiford obviously comes back. But I think that I would think that Florida would go into the preseason voted as the SEC favorite. It would surprise me if they weren't.
And if not the national championship, they'll be top 3 or 4 in I think national picture.
Yeah, Purdue and Houston will be up there for sure.
Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun, you can read him and hear him on numerous podcasts. Appreciate your time, Kevin, and you be well, my friend. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great trip out of town with your family on birthdays. All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Kevin Brockway of the Gainesville Sun. Could not get a hold of Allie tonight. She said she might be stuck over there in Tampa with some parents' meetings. So with 4 girls, and she has a lot going on. I understand that completely. And who hasn't had meetings had to go to when a guard gets to school? But anyway, good show tonight. Good to have you. Thank you for all you people who are just joining your program. Many new ones coming aboard, and appreciate it very much. Got a chance to hear Coach Fedora today, Larry Fedora, former offensive coach at Florida under Ron Zook, on Rob Brown's show, SEC Sidelines today. Very good. It's still up there if you want to go hear it. Hold on. The SEC Sidelines here on YouTube. I want to say thank you to our sponsors. I've mentioned one. I want to mention the other one. Our good friends, Melvin Law. I know Jeffrey's off taking a globe-trotting trip with his wife Patricia to several places away out there in other continents. I think he may hit 7 continents these next couple of weeks. And we'll have him on from one of them. He just texted me how great Vienna was, one of his favorite places. So we'll hear those stories. Jeffrey knows how to live. He knows how to love his Gators, which he does. He does many great things for them, including sponsorship of many things like this show. They also are official sponsor of the Florida Gators. The only law firm to do that. And I would recommend to you, if you have a need, you need to go over there and see him, because if he doesn't have the lawyer that's just right for you, he'll help you find somebody who is. He's currently working on litigation for me, and he's someone who is concerned about you, especially if you're bleed orange and blue. You've got an excellent opportunity to have someone help you out who knows what he's doing. So, again, a good show tonight. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.